All right, today we're going to break down the core ideas from Scott Galloway's book, The Algebra of Wealth. This is really a no-nonsense guide to building real financial freedom, and we're going to unpack the exact formulas he says can get you there.
So let's dive in with this killer line from Bob Dylan. When you're struggling, money just feels like a constant string of insults, right? But what's really wild is that back in 2020, Dylan sold his song catalog for $400 million. It just goes to show you, when you have enough of it, money's tone can definitely change. From swearing at you to, well, comforting you.
And for way too many people, money is just this source of constant nagging stress. I mean, get this. Half of all American adults can't even cover a surprise $500 medical bill without having to go into debt. That's a staggering figure, and it just shows you how vulnerable so many of us are.
This kind of constant financial strain, well, that's what Galloway calls economic anxiety. Think of it like high blood pressure. It's this persistent underlying pressure that's always there, just waiting to turn a small problem, like your car breaking down, into a total life-altering crisis. And he makes this fear incredibly real with a story from his own childhood. When he was just 9 years old, he lost a jacket. And when he told his mom, she didn't get mad. She just started to cry. It was never about the jacket. It was about the crushing weight of their financial situation. It just shows how a simple mistake can feel like this devastating blow, making economic insecurity feel like a deep personal failure.
So the big question is, how do you escape this cycle of anxiety? Well, let's get into the first step, defining a clear, concrete goal. Galloway calls this your freedom number, and it's all about getting to a place of true economic security.
And look, the goal here isn't to be fabulously over-the-top rich. The real win, the real finish line, is achieving economic security. This is that magic point where the money your investments are generating all on their own, that's your passive income, is more than enough to cover all of your annual expenses, or what Galloway calls your burn rate. That's it. That's the goal.
And you know what? The math to figure this out is surprisingly simple. First, you calculate your annual burn. Just add up everything you spend in a year. Then, tack on about 20 to 30% of that number to account for taxes. And finally, you just multiply that total by 25. That's it. That is your freedom number. That is the target you're aiming for with your investments.
Okay, so you've got your target, but actually hitting that number? Well, that requires the right foundation. And this all starts with the very first pillar of the Algebra of Wealth, mastering your mindset through what Galloway calls Stoicism.
See, building wealth really starts with building something durable inside yourself. Galloway borrows this idea from Stephen Covey, distinguishing between the character ethic and the personality ethic. Character is all about your internal virtues, things like patience, discipline. The goal is to be good. The personality ethic, on the other hand, is about surface-level stuff, how people see you. The goal there is just to look good. Real, lasting wealth, it's always built on character.
A huge part of this mindset is resisting what scientists call the hedonic treadmill. You know that feeling, right? It's our natural tendency to always want more. As soon as we get a raise or hit a goal, our expectations just reset, and enough is always a little bit further away. Stoicism teaches you that real, lasting satisfaction comes from your relationships and your experiences, not just from endlessly piling up more stuff. All right, so that mindset then flows right into the second pillar, focus. Now we're going to shift from your internal state to the practical side of things, how you actually earn an income and where you direct your energy.
Galloway has some seriously blunt advice here. He says, if someone tells you to follow your passion, it means they're already rich. For most of us, that's just a trap. The real mission is to find something you are good at, and then put in the really hard work to become great at it. The passion, that comes after you achieve mastery.
So, how do you find that thing? This is the one question you have to ask yourself. What is something that you find pretty easy that other people seem to really struggle with? That's the seed of your unique talent. For Galloway himself, it was an unusual tolerance for pain, which he used to just outwork everybody else at Morgan Stanley.
This means we've got to think about talent in a much broader way. It's not just about being a math genius or a gifted musician. A talent can be your curiosity, your empathy, or just your raw capacity for hard work. For a wrestler, it's being able to make weight. For a jockey, being short is a massive advantage. Your unique difference is your talent.
And that brings us to our final pillar, which is honestly the most powerful force in the entire wealth equation, time. This is where you learn to let the universe do most of the heavy lifting for you.
The engine that drives all of this is compound interest. You know, they call it the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. It's that magical process where you earn returns not just on your initial investment, but on all the returns you've already earned. It's a snowball effect that turns small, consistent actions into absolutely massive results over the long haul.
And look, the power of starting early is just mind-blowing. Let's say you invest $12,000 a year for just 10 years, starting at age 25. By the time you're 65, you could have $2.5 million. But if you wait until you're 45 to do the exact same thing, you end up with only $500,000. That is a 5 times difference, all because of when you started.
And this is exactly why, when you are young, time is your single greatest asset. It is the one resource that older, richer people don't have and can't buy back. They can buy jets, they can buy yachts, but they cannot buy another decade for their investments to compound. Your time is literally more valuable than their money.
And that really brings us to the whole point of this entire algebra. As the philosopher Seneca said, what good is having valuable things if you don't have anyone to share them with? At the end of the day, the goal isn't just a number in a bank account. The point of building wealth is to buy back your time and free up your resources so you can invest them in what actually matters, a life that is truly rich in relationships. So the real question is, what are you solving for?